Would you consider yourself a high-level entrepreneur? Now, most likely, if you're listening to this, you definitely are. And what I've heard over and over and over again is it's hard to find like-minded people that are like that too. Again, I'm from Maine, so I totally understand how difficult it can be. Thank goodness I have an amazing online community, so I know tons of them. And that is exactly why we are starting this brand new mastermind group with high-level, like-minded entrepreneurs, the ones that you can go alongside with that will help move you to the next level, let alone with kick butt coaching from me, because I like to slap you around, both on focus and on strategy. So if you're looking to double or triple this year, which I know most of you are, I want you to go ahead and apply and see if it's a good fit for you. I will totally tell you if it's not, and if I wouldn't do it if I were you. But go to eventualmillionaire.com/apply. We are looking for amazing, like-minded entrepreneurs. My previous mastermind members have told me it is life changing. So take the time today, fill out the very quick application, and we'll see if it's a fit. Take care.
Potent advice and inspiration from real self-made millionaires. Welcome to The Eventual Millionaire with your host, Jaime Masters.
Welcome to Eventual Millionaire. I am Jaime Masters. And today on the show, we have David Meltzer. You can check him out at dmeltzer.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to it. My specialty is to help people make over $1 million. Don't limit yourself. Never say I want to make $1 million. Always say I want to make over $1 million.
I love it, right? I was just told a minute ago on the other podcast that I need to have Eventual Billionaire, which I own, don't get me wrong. But we're working on the first million, so that way it's way easier to do the next. You're one of the top 100 business coaches. You've got a whole bunch of information. How did you get into that? Because I know you have an agency, you have a bunch of different businesses.
Yeah, so, weird. I always say don't limit your point of entry, but I graduated law school and got into technology, ended up the CEO of the first smartphone for Samsung, Windows CE device, became an entrepreneur after that in my 30s. So owned real estate and technology, angel investor, met a guy named Lee Steinberg, who they made the movie Jerry Maguire after. And after meeting him, 48 hours, I became the CEO of the most notable sports agency in the world, which set my career into a different trajectory. 11 years ago, Warren Moon, the Hall of Fame quarterback, and I started Sports One Marketing, which is one of the global marketing companies. We started in sponsorship and advertising and moved to media, which explains how I got into the coaching side, because the last 3 years after I learned media, 2.5 years ago, I ran into a guy named Gary Vaynerchuk, and he needed my help building his sports agency. And all the young superstars at my company in the media said, David, instead of getting paid, this is the man. You need to ask him for help. And so I said, Gary, these guys think that you can build my brand, my personal brand as a middle-aged mutant turtle. Do you think with my career that you could teach me how to use media? And I became, I had a TV show called Elevator Pitch. I have a podcast called The Playbook. I started putting out Instagram videos, and for a year, everybody was making fun of me, asking me who I thought I was. I was always an inspirational speaker, so I was a traditional speaker. And on stage years ago, one person 5 years ago asked me if I would coach them. I didn't know what that was. I told him to get 3 friends, meet me at 7 a.m. at the picnic table in my community, and I did very well at it. I had a couple investors come in and teach me how to be an executive coach. Then I bought them back out. And now, I have a huge executive coaching and business advisory practice that is really drawn by the digital platform that Gary helped me build for myself. And it's most rewarding thing. I write books. I have 5 books. I have my podcast, et cetera. The most rewarding thing is to individually help businesses and individuals achieve what they want, accelerate it, really leveraging my dummy tax. I always tell people, like, wow, how are you such a good coach? I go, because you will not meet anyone my age that has made more mistakes than me.
I love it. And you're ridiculously good at elevator pitches, because you gave us your whole synopsis in a very succinct, very short manner. You have done this before, as I can totally tell. So before I get into the Gary V and what he had you do, because I'm very interested in that, the sports analogies and growing something in that stage. How in 48 hours did you become the CEO of someone else's company? They're just like, you're the man, go? That's not normal typically.
No, in fact, I was going through a quantum shift in my life. I was extremely non-spiritual. And at that time, started actually watching the movie The Secret and studying Wayne Dyer and I started meditating. And lo and behold, a friend, I was going to go back to work to be the president of TELUS, which was a data division in Finland, really high paying, good job, but still just a job, right? And I become an entrepreneur. I wasn't used to an office anymore. And my friend asked me if I would help represent him for a reality show called Showtime with Magic Johnson. Lo and behold, the most famous sports agent of all time, Lee Steinberg, they made that movie about him. He was literally representing that show. So I met him, and the reason he hired me is that my younger brother, 14 months younger than I, is a complete genius. He went to Harvard. He was summa cum laude. He was a biochem major. He could read a book in a day and remember like what page it was. Well, anyway, when I met Lee Steinberg, I didn't know, but his COO, they had sold their baseball practice for 90 million. His COO had bought into the Diamondbacks and became president of the Diamondbacks baseball team. And he was looking for a chief operating officer. Well, when I met him, I was the first person I think that really he could communicate with in a long time because he is a high vibration, high frequency. I tease my brother a little bit on the spectrum. These are just pure geniuses. Yeah. Well, I lived with my brother for 18 years. I knew exactly how to communicate. So I made him feel so comfortable that he asked me back after we had the meeting to come back the next day. We spent 12 hours together. And at the end of the day, he mentioned that there may be an opportunity to be an executive with his company. And would I be interested? And for me, I went to law school to be a sports agent, but that went nowhere. I literally loved Jerry Maguire. I loved him. He was a legend in my mind. I was like, I will do anything for you. And believe it or not, his first offer to me was chief operating officer, and I ended up CEO. In 48 hours, I had an offer from him for my dream job in my office. I knew so little about the firm. My office was between him and Warren Moon, the Hall of Fame quarterback. And Warren Moon was one of my favorite players ever. So I literally, just sat there going, are you kidding me? I told my wife, I go, I can't believe they're paying me to do this. But that's when I started really putting faith in the ability that we have to think, say, do, believe, and put faith in what we want. And if we put enough faith, and not by sitting around high on your mom's couch, I'm talking about the Law of GOYA. Work hard, work smart, and work long. You can make anything happen in your life.
Oh, we're going to dive into that in just a second. It's just very interesting that it's soft skills. It wasn't like because I had all these certifications or I proved this skill set to you.
He never saw my resume.
Yeah.
He never saw my resume. He just knew I was successful. I owned a golf course, a ski mountain, but he really enjoyed my flight. He still, I don't think, has ever seen my resume.
Who needs resumes nowadays, right? We have the internet. Exactly. Thank goodness. So then you've had that much success. And I feel you on the fact that if you did with Gary Vee a year of content and everybody looking at you like you're crazy. So why did you even want to go down that path to really set yourself out there?
That's a great question. So I had spent my career branding individual athletes, Troy Aikman, Steve Young, Warren Moon, all Evander Holyfield, Lennox, like all these great brands. And then also the company brands. And so I was really familiar and interested in these personal brands, what they called influencers. I really wanted to see the longevity. And I saw that in the space, there was no one my age that had the traditional credibility of the ups and downs. I'd in my 30s lost over $100 million. I had made it back. I had run the most notable sports agency. I'd run the most notable, literally the world's first smartphone in 99, Samsung's, so I had some great experience. And I felt like, gosh, if I could learn how to brand myself, that there'll never be a greater opportunity for me to be able to have my own brand. Speak all I want, but I know the future. I've been in the internet since 1992. We sold our company in 1995 for $3.4 billion. So I worked for West Publishing. We sold to Thomson Reuters. I understand technology. And what I understand about technology was from the phone business that great content can be amplified and perpetuated. Great content, if you give access on different mediums, it has a perpetual nature to it, which means you can monetize it forever. It's a bigger annuity than IULs or life insurance. It's an incredible annuity. And I knew that I could stand on stages in front of thousands of people and resonate with them and inspire them. And I just didn't know how to do and build myself in a short form content, like what they wanted to see, how long, whether you have the phone vertical or horizontal. There's all these things that Gary was an expert at, in how to learn the analytics, how to brand yourself, and what a true following was. Because I was looking for engagement. I still do. I don't have any fake followers. I really, all my following is really engaged, and we have a lot of viewers. The TV show gets 43 million viewers. The podcast is a #1 entrepreneur podcast. Millions of views. It's on Reach TV. It's at the airport. So I'm one of the few people that combine the traditional and the digital. And I really felt that it was going to be worth the criticism and the skepticism. I showed up at the Super Bowl my first year, and people were making fun of me, going, "Hey man, you could do a video in the bathroom with me? Hey man, are you now like Tony Robbins? You think you're Tony Robbins?" I would get that all the time. Now those same people, by the way, are begging me to come on my podcast so they can get exposure. And I'm getting it's just like being an entrepreneur, right? You cannot put faith in what other people want for you, or you're going to get it and then resent them. Put faith in yourself. And that's the biggest lesson I can give on this whole show.
Isn't that funny? It's like tall poppy syndrome. Even if they're friends of you, it's like they're still joking, and it's a joke, quote unquote, right? But it's still like, what the hell, dude? I'm trying to do something over here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, can I have a little bit of love? Just please stop knocking me down.
Yeah, seriously. And I know the whole world, the world we live in, definitely there's those pieces, but what we focus on, and to be able to make that consistency for how long that you did it. So tell me about what that trajectory looked like. Because a lot of people that do want to have more of a following and wish they had Gary Vee tell them exactly what to do, right?
Yeah.
What did he have you do? Was it just more content? How did he brand? I mean, you already do branding.
So first thing he told me, because he's very philosophical, was detach from the outcome. Don't look at the number of followers, right? Look at the engagement. Look to see how many people are inspired by you, that are wanting to engage with you, that will show up to a meetup, that ask you for business or coaching or speaking. Just don't worry about the followers, right? Because that's arbitrary and capricious. And so he wanted me to get engagement. He wanted me to move people. The other thing that he taught me was, to invest in myself, that it'd never be cheaper than right now to build your own brand, and that it wasn't going to happen overnight, and that here's a number that you need to invest in order to be a real brand, right? And I was blessed to have the capacity I actually bought a media company and started not only doing this for me, but for the other clients that we have, because I figured, geez, nobody knows how to do this. I must start a business. I've actually already sold that business back and just kept my own media guys. It's very weird to have a camera on you for, so much time and how to edit, but it was, I wasn't putting up enough content. I did 100 vlogs that were, really long. And then he started me doing real short snippets of the lessons that I've learned. And that's where it really started resonating and generating a lot of interest, is that I have a unique capacity of being old and being on the internet. So I have a lot of lessons that I've learned. And I truly, I call myself the Elvis of the internet now, because I loved Elvis because basically he transcoded a genre of music that already existed and was super popular, but he gave it to the masses, right? And all I'm doing is really taking a lot of traditional, the Bob Proctors of the world, the Wayne Dyers of the world, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill, Abraham Hicks, all the things that I've learned throughout the years and the lessons that I've learned, and I'm transcoding it to inspire young entrepreneurs, all people, to be honest. My main mission is to make people happy, and I believe to make people happy, you need to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun. Only 3 things you got to worry about, and making money doesn't make you happy, but if you shop for the right things, you'll be happy. And money's definitely the currency of this vibration. Faith is the currency above us. The currency with us right now is money. So make as much of it as possible and buy the right things.
See, I love hearing a guy from tech. I came from tech too, but have a guy from tech into like The Secret and Law of Attraction, and being able to transmute that information. Because I do feel like, no offense to most humans, but woo-woo is over here, and then logic and tech is over here, right? And it seems like there's such a chasm or gap in between them, and I feel like people need to make that jump. So keep telling me more about how you got on this track.
Yeah, well, it came from technology. So I didn't buy the BS at all. My wife was super spiritual. My entire marriage, I've known her since I was in the fourth grade. She didn't like me until I was older and wealthier, I think. But she hates that joke. She did not marry me for my money. It was my looks. Anyway, she literally would like since I was 30 years old. You are lost. I'm like, I'm lost. I'm a multimillionaire at 30. You're married to me. I have outkicked my coverage. You are the most extraordinary woman I've ever met. I dreamed about marrying you when I was in the fourth grade. I asked you to go SETI in the sixth grade. You said no. I threw an egg at you. And now you're telling me I'm lost? I have everything I ever wanted. I grew up with 6 kids and a single mom. And you're telling me I'm lost? I have everything. I have a Ferrari, a Porsche, huge. I have 33 homes, by the way, at that time. I have a golf course, a ski mountain, and I'm lost. And she would say, you're lost. And literally, I was the biggest arrogant asshole you would ever meet. I don't know why she put up with me, but she was put into my life to allow me to grow. And once this is how it all happened. I was on this journey. My wife was pushing me into the secret. I was resistant to it when I watched it the first time. I was consulting for a guy that was in empowered wealth, but somehow they were financial planners. The one guy was in the movie The Secret. He was the gratitude guy, Lee Brower, the attitude of gratitude. And I understood gratitude, but the law of attraction, I was a law of GOYA guy, like John Assaraf, right? Get off your ass. I was working hard, working long, and working smart. And I made everything happen in my life. And this is where it all clicked. As a technology guy, a pragmatic guy, a money guy, I at that time even believed money bought happiness. It shifted since. It just allows you to shop, and shopping makes you happy. But
That's fun.
literally, it's true. And the same thing with faith, right? Faith allows you to shop for everything. And if you shop for put faith in the right things, you'll be super happy. But here's what happened. I go to India. I sit next to this medical doctor. She was wonderful, little lady, and she looked at me and she said, are you okay?" And I was like, yeah, like in my arrogant mind, yeah, I'm okay. I'm like CEO of Lee Steinberg. You know who I am? Like, yeah, I'm fine. And she's like, oh, she goes, you're so lost. And it kind of clicked to me. I go, huh? You don't know me. She goes, well, you're so full of light, but you're blocking it. And I remember rolling my eyes going, I need to change seats. Like I'm in a first class seat. I need to change. And then she said, do you meditate? And I looked at her and I swear, this is what I told her. I'm like, meditate? I go, meditation is for people that are sick, broke, and high on their mom's couch. I don't have time to meditate. I grew up with 6 kids and a single mom in Akron, Ohio. I had to pack my dinner in a station wagon while my mom worked 2 jobs. I've made everything happen in my life. I own 33 homes and a golf course and a ski mountain, and I have a gorgeous wife and 3 beautiful daughters, a Ferrari, a Porsche. I'm listing out everything I own to this lady going, and I'm lost? And you want me to meditate? I don't have time for that. And she said, oh, that's too bad because I could teach you to vibrate faster. And I'm like this was my face, huh? Like, so because she said that, it piqued my curiosity. And I was like, okay, so you can teach me to vibrate faster. Who cares? And then she killed me. She said, you understand everything vibrates. She goes right to science and technology. I go, actually, yeah, I do. Earth vibrates the slowest, plants, animals, humans, sound, light, and then thought. And she said, do you know what thought vibrates the fastest? And I said, no. And she said, the truth. The truth vibrates the fastest, and you cannot be aware of anything that vibrates equal to, you can only be aware of anything that vibrates equal to or less than you. And I literally sat there speechless. And she said, you need to pursue the truth. And that's why you're lost. And I was like, oh. So then she offered to send me to a workshop to learn to meditate. And still to this day, I don't know why I was compelled, but I literally stayed 4 extra days in India and studied theta meditation and quantum healing. Changed my life. I learned the technology of the universe, the quantum field. I started to study physics, metaphysics, and quantum physics in order to substantiate what I thought was now true. Yeah. And everything that my wife had been trying, and my mom had been trying to tell me. I literally went to math and science and technology to understand the aggregate of what we think, say, do, believe, and the unconscious competencies, the DNA, the genetics, the epigenetics, how to create a frequency of your own, a brand of your own. And what was cool about it is I took all of the aggregates and the amalgamation of my completely Forrest Gump like life, and it all came together to be able to articulate effectively, to be the Elvis of spirituality, where I work within two realms: one of teaching people how to pragmatically unlimited amount of abundance and wealth to make a lot of money. Also, the philanthropic side of what I do to help a lot of people because you can't give what you don't have. And then finally, to be happier, to have fun. And I've actually trademarked make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun because I think it's so important that every entrepreneur, every person out there understands the importance of all three things and how integrated they are.
Thank you for saying that, because I think, number one, I think science is just barely catching up right now. Even with epigenetics, it's like, oh, wait, this is happening when 20 years ago we had no freaking clue, right? And all the toxins and all. So I feel like finally science is starting to catch up with the spirituality side of things that I just got into not that long ago either. When you think about all the people that have been doing this for many, many years, right? East versus West and all that. And going through and figuring out what works so that we can not pull the business owners that are techie, but you know what I mean? Start to open them up so they're not so resistant to it. So it's when I started interviewing millionaires, they kept talking about visioning. And I was a programmer. I was like, that stuff is like, no, that's woo woo. I can't even mention that without, right? And then I got the science behind meditation. So I started meditating and I was like, okay, well, I'm calmer and less stressed. So at least that's some actual thing for me, right? My kids know when I don't. But then it took me long enough, like, to get to pull me into this because I researched the heck just like you did over prove it to me, right? And so to me, what you're doing to be able to show and pull those people even more with the science behind it, with that framework as a business owner, is amazing. I'm so grateful that you went through all the crap that you did with all those videos for a really long time just to pull people towards that. So when you were going through that though and figuring out that big shift, because it sounds like you're such an action taker. How did you rationalize I'm supposed to be taking action, but I'm supposed to be more intuitive and feel what I'm supposed to feel before I take action, right? That whole cycle.
Yeah, so I developed a continuum from that conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. And the continuum had three laws that I had to learn. One was inherent in my nature, which is the law of GOYA, right? Get off my ass. I was a hard worker. I was a smart worker, but I was a long worker. And it's something that Gary and I share. When I detach from outcomes, I look for acceleration and growth. So if I'm doing something like building my own brand, the way that I had it in my mind was, what if, I started when I basically started when I was 49 years old. So by 59, what if I was 25% of the way there? Which meant I had 250,000 followers. Then it would take me 5 more years to get to 500,000 followers, then 2.5 years to get to 1 million followers. Well, the aggregate of that is 17 and a half years, which would still put me, at a very young age, in my opinion. It was 65 years old. Well, with 1 million engagements, I shouldn't say followers, with 1 million people engaged with me, I would retire for the rest of my life. Most people in their lifetime before they came up with the internet could never engage with 1 million people. And if you can and you have great ideas and great monetization skills, you'll never have to work again if 1 million people are engaged with you. And lo and behold, I was able to do it more in the context of months, 10 months to 5 months to 2.5 months. And now it's exponentially growing. Here, you have the same possibilities. And literally, detachment and focus on acceleration and growth have been the key of the law of GOYA, of working hard, working smart, but most importantly, working long. The second one's the law of attraction. So through metaphysics, quantum physics, I've learned that what we believe, which is dictated by what we think, say, and do every day, the consistent behavior, because neural pathways are formed, habits are formed, and disciplines are formed through 21 to 30 days of straight activity. Then my beliefs would then not pull from the quantum field of everything, of infinity, but the beliefs are what create a indicator or a frequency to your DNA. The DNA is the code that is you, and you can activate DNA not just from your own lineage, 4 generations, but I believe in multiple lifetimes. So millions of lifetimes, I can draw the power of all the lessons that started with Sanskrit, like literally from the universe. And so for me, that continuum of the law of GOYA, the law of attraction. Now, the hardest part was the law of surrender. And this is where people get detached.
So hard.
So,
Yes.
because, like, how the hell, dude, you're the most aggressive. You wake up at 4 a.m. You're all about productivity and accessibility. I was a millionaire 9 months out of law school, not because I was a genius. It's because I figured out how to work 56 days of productivity in a week. I literally did. If you take 16 hours of productivity, twice as efficient makes it 32 hours of productivity. Twice as statistically successful makes it 64 hours of productivity. 64 hours of productivity is 8 days, and you work 7 days a week. I was working 56 days a week. So in 9 months, my plan of my job right out of law school was 250 grand. Well, in 10, literally 9 months, I'd worked 10 years. So I made $1 million. But the truth is, I was way below plan because I was only at 100,000 per year. But this is the law of surrender is so counterintuitive. I say the hyper aggressive activity that we need to understand is to get out of our own way, to clear the connection between the biggest source of energy and all those other people that are connected to us. This alone, the ability to clear those connections, are so hyper aggressive to stay out of ego based consciousness, to have two mindsets. One, my original action of the day, you only get one original action of the day, is to go to center, my mindset to get in the flow, to harness the energy and give it away. Two, my reaction, which once you take the first action, there's only reaction. Here's the math and science. Now, my reaction should be not to create resistance, but to surrender, go back to center, and utilize the most powerful source of energy that we have and inspiration that we have in order to raise our awareness, understand what's going on, make better decisions, and be more productive and take action. It's not about sitting around high and broke on your mom's couch. It's about three laws: the law of GOYA, the laws of attraction, and the law of surrender, and a continuum from the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind to make a lot of money, help a lot of people, and have a lot of fun.
Okay, we have to dive really into that. And especially because there's so many minute details to what you just said that we could go in. So first of all, the law of surrender to me is something that business owners can really grasp the concept of. Doing it is complete, like letting go. Having an owner let go of things is like one of the, like I can hustle. They can even believe in the law of attraction, but letting go of things is difficult. So got any tips for that?
Yeah. So one is awareness. I always say to define things help us to materialize them, right? Every great imaginative idea closed itself. So in order to define things, what I started to do is list out what was getting in my way, what I defined as the ego-based consciousness. So I listed out, oh my gosh, I have a need to be right. This need to be right is going to like ruin my marriage. I cannot argue over the dumbest things like which way to turn and end up upset and then ruining my business and my family relationships because I'm pissed off about nothingness because I've an ego-based need to be right. Then I saw that I had a need to be offended. Like literally, I was very generous, but I was like super offended. Oh, they didn't invite me. Oh, they weren't thankful enough. Oh, like I was wasting so much time and energy that could be spent making money, helping people, and having fun on the needs of the ego. And so I listed out the need to be right, the need to be offended, the need to be anxious, frustrated, angry, separate, inferior, superior, guilty, all of these different needs of the ego that was wasting my energy or creating interference in my energy. Once I defined it, now it became almost a business practice to myself. It was not anymore, oh, I'm a passive Buddha. Everything's fine in my life. No, it was more, all right, I've now identified that I'm a moron. And what do I do when I'm a moron? I'm going to go to a better place. I'm not going to let people steal my joy, steal my energy. I'm an appreciator, not a depreciator. And then when I understood fear, here's a great lesson for entrepreneurs because they tell me all the time, fear motivates me, Dave. No, it does not. Fear is a depreciator. It's the biggest soul sucker ever created. What fear does is fear focuses us. It hyper focuses us. So in order to be a successful entrepreneur and appreciate, add value and inspiration and energy to your life, you have to substitute fear, not with something that depreciates, but something that motivates. So what is that? Consistent behavior. What focuses us is consistent behavior because consistent behavior creates neural pathways. Neural pathways activate DNA. DNA creates the frequency. So for me, I started to lower the bar and start saying things like 2 minutes a day of meditation is worth more than an hour a week. I took it into my personal life and said, I want to improve my relationship with my mom. I'm going to call my mom a minimum of 1 minute a day to tell her I love and appreciate her every day instead of her trying to waste 10 hours of my time on a Saturday. And it started to work. And my relationship's way better with my mom. I got 30 minutes every day minimum with my wife. I have 30 minutes with my 9-year-old son every day minimum, and 2 minutes with my teenage daughters. And that's because I asked for 5 and they thought I was completely high. There's no way they're going to give me 5 minutes. I begged for 3 and we settled on 2.
They're
But
good
my relationship,
negotiators.
yeah. Well, look who their dad is,
Right?
right? Apples don't fall far from the tree. But my relationships are so extraordinary. My health, one thing I did when I was an entrepreneur in the deep of it is I prioritized my family first, my business second. That left me no time for my health. Nobody's going to put their health over hanging out with their family or making money. So I had to reprioritize. So 7 days a week, I spend a minimum of 1 hour a day on my health. And I have lost in 2.5 years 47 pounds of fat. I have increased my energy level. I've always had high energy, which I used as an excuse that I was healthy. I wasn't healthy. I just had high energy. Now I'm healthy and I have high energy. I wake up at 4 a.m. every day, which is another piece of advice I give to people. Wake up as early as you can. You want to be productive and accessible. Productive means add value. Accessible means accessing what you want, but also being accessible to others. That creates the flow of energy or technology that you want. But literally, I am I burn out. I don't go to bed. I never have problems sleeping because I just run out of energy. Sometimes it's standing up, sometimes it's on the computer, sometimes it's talking to my wife, but I am out cold because my idea of life is to live it at the fullest, to allow things to come through me for others, not for me or not to me. To me is a victim. For me is selfish, narcissistic, and egotistical. Through me is in the flow, how things happen and how faith happens itself. And faith is like a credit card. Look, I told you, if you shop for the right things. So in this pragmatic realm, if you're an entrepreneur, money can buy what you want, and buying what you want or allowing you to shop makes you happy. If you have a green card, you can only buy so much. You have a platinum card, you can buy more. But if you have a black card, you can buy everything that you want. Faith is the same way. If you have a green card of faith, you're not going to get everything you want in life from the quantum field that has everything. If you have a platinum card, you'll live a great life. Everything will be for you. But man, if you can live with black card faith, and you can put faith in everything and everyone, more than enough of everything for everyone, live in abundance, truly getting out of your way with the law of surrender, the law of attraction, and the law of GOYA, your life will be filled with money. It'll be filled with philanthropy and legacy, and it'll be filled with happiness, joy, and fun.
Okay. So when we talk about this stuff, I get so jazzed, right? And then when you actually go to your daily life and you're aware of some of these issues that we have, especially ego or whatever it is, but then the frustration of all the other things that you have going on, right? Because I feel like this is a practice. It's not something that you just have like this. As amazing as it sounds that you're like, and then I'm aware, and then it's amazing because we're human still so far, right?
Me too.
Right. And so the chaos that can come from being aware, but being frustrated because you can't change it quite yet, or it doesn't feel like you've been able to change it. Tell me about a time when you were like that, like, I know I'm aware. Uh-huh.
I'm still like that. Anytime I try to change anything, I am still like that. The biggest and hardest one for me was my father. My father left when I was 5. He was my hero. I adored him. I can't even imagine the peace of my mom that I would be in the station wagon after she packed our dinner, working 2 jobs, and tell my mom how stupid she was, what a loser she was, because my dad was rich, married a girl that was closer to my age than him, and yet he wasn't paying child support in the 70s. And she just sat there humbly, never saying one negative thing. At 10 years old, my dad forgot my birthday. It crushed me. It crushed me. And worse than crushing me for that, when I called him, he said he didn't forget my birthday. I lived in California. He lived in Ohio. He said, I don't believe in birthdays, which I was a pretty intelligent 10-year-old, which was the most insulting thing that anyone, let alone my hero, had said to me, that he would patronize me so much that I was so stupid, like literally. And I understand now as a father, he was projecting his insecurity, probably felt like this big. But moreover, I hated him, and I didn't talk to him. I wasted so many years. My dad passed last year, and I still am regretful about the lesson of not being in contact with my father for so many years. But every time I wasted so much energy, I created so much resistance. I was in my own way. And once I started to learn the word understanding, right? I learned two things: that anything that I can't change, my objective is to understand it, to learn the lessons from it, and also to pray for its happiness, to find the light in it, pray for the happiness in it. And my life became easier, and I started to learn to enjoy everything. I came up with the motto to enjoy the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my potential. I let go of any outcomes. I started, like, one of the things Gary taught me was, hey, Dave, when you're trying to get something done on somebody else's time frame, that's ego, right? That's just ego. You do things the best you can in the potential that you have. When you're trying to get things done, what other people expect, or some certain date, I'll make $1 million by the end of the year, that just creates resistance. And, for me, understanding and praying for people's happiness, one of the cool lessons I always say, I hated taking the trash out. I had 6 kids and a middle child. For some reason, I always had to take the trash out, and it would spill on me. If there's glass in it, it would cut me. I'd swear at it and it would spill. I had the negative energy. And this is what I see people do in their businesses or other things in life, children. So then, as I became more enlightened, I said to myself, I got to learn to love things, even things that I just have to change my perspective because it's an illusion. And so I wanted to teach myself how to love taking out the trash, because I had to take the trash out of my fraternity house because I was the smallest football player. I have 3 daughters. I've been taking out the trash for years, and I hated it. I literally told myself, what do I want? And I said, you know what? Everybody could use more time to think about what they want to be happy. From now on, I'm going to see trash and I'm going to take it out at the office, at home, anywhere else, friend's house. And I'm going to use it as time when I take the trash out to take my time, and I'm going to think about what I want in my life to be happy. The whole energy of that trash changed. I learned to love taking out the trash because it meant something different. I gave it a different meaning. I gave it a different purpose. The interesting thing is my energy shifted so much that trash to my kids was like kryptonite, right? 3 daughters. It was literally like kryptonite. And eventually, because of my attitude of going to friends' house and people saying, oh my God, that's so nice. The other wives telling my wife how lucky she was. Meanwhile, I'm really just ditching everybody to think about what I wanted. And they think I'm a hero. But my middle child, who's like, the more devilish of the 3, she actually, because my energy shifted, said, Dad, can I take that out for you? And I know it's because of the way I carried myself and perceived myself and had energy towards the trash that wasn't resistant. And that is truly the lesson of what we can do with everything. If you're waking up at 4 a.m. and you don't have enough money, and you are going to, and you don't always believe, and your parents are telling you you're crazy and you don't own a house and you should get married and you'll never be married, and all the things that everybody hears and unfortunately sometimes put faith into, just learn to love what you're doing. Shift your energy. Appreciate the people that care about you, but don't put faith into what they want for you. You're just going to be a copy. They're not going to think of anything original for you. They're not going to have an authentic frequency that's going to get what you want. The true changers, the extraordinary people, do not put faith in what other people. They listen and learn from other people. They grab the lessons that they like for themselves, but they only put faith in themselves. They only put faith in what they believe by utilizing mentorship, by utilizing lessons, surrounding yourself with the right people, the right idea. But in the end, put faith in what you dream of and be consistent about it. And eventually it will come at the right way at the perfect time.
So what for those people that are maybe waking up at 4 a.m. and don't have the full belief, like somebody who's been through as much as you have, and they waffle. So they go back and forth. So they're like, oh, I think I want to do this, and I have a little bit of belief, but then I think I do this. And they're sort of stuck in that pattern of not actually getting off their ass because they don't know which path is the right path. I feel like there's so many gurus online telling you the right way to do it that people sort of freeze.
Yeah, they do. Paralysis by analysis. Choose one, right? Choose one, or be super about it and choose both, but do them both. Do them both 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day. Sacrifice is there. It's real. There's 17, 18 years of overnight successes. I've been around, the guy who invented Pictionary, John Paul DiGiorio, homeless and bankrupt twice. I've been bankrupt and lost everything. Look, I'm talking about real sacrifice. It doesn't happen without the law of Goya. And if you want to go ahead and waffle and pretend like you want to do something because you're avoiding, then go ahead and just make it real for yourself, at least. The people, women and men, the people who are successful sacrifice. My mom sacrificed everything for her children. That's why we're successful.
Wait, so where's the line? Okay, so where's the line though between sacrifice, right? Because sacrifice has a negative connotation anyway,
Yeah.
to where we want to be, which is in flow and appreciative no matter what. Because if I'm feeling like I'm sacrificing time with my family or whatever it is, doesn't that put a negative spin on it too, potentially?
Well, not if your values, right? Not if your values are aligned. It's an evolution. So we're speaking in language that people would understand. Now we've moved over to a higher level of understanding. So somebody that would understand that sacrifice is a shortage, a void, an obstacle, and a scarce energy would already be able to get the fact that they need to put in the value. Is really the way that I would say it. Unfortunately, if I told people you really have to put in the value, they wouldn't get it. So we're talking to people who are trying to make their first $1 million, right? We're building people up mainly. So it's really important. This is the Elvis kind of thing that I've learned.
Mm.
We can talk and I can tell people love is the cure to everything. And I believe that. That's not going to pay the bills. And people are going to be like, dude, you sound like Marianne Williamson. She's not going to win the presidency. That's why Donald Trump won the presidency, because he's real. So this is so hard to understand because you get it. You're hyper enlightened and old soul. You get the energy side of it, but we have to talk in terms that people understand.
Mm.
Yes, huge negative energy towards sacrifice. But if you are one of those people that are home and waffling, you're not going to understand the negative energy side. I got to take it down to the level, just as if I'm talking,
Yeah.
I can't speak the same way to my 9-year-old that I do my 20-year-old. And yet I have to choose the vibrational level in which people can be catalytic and move and expand and grow at that level. So you are correct in both of your statements, but I would say for the masses, sacrifice everything that you have.
Same.
Be positive, learn to love, whatever it is that's resonating with you. It's a evolution, not a revolution. You're going to grow with it. And people like you and I are here to mentor them. So no matter what stage of vibrational, attitudinal, educational, or enlightenment they're at, we can facilitate getting to the next level, expanding and growing, getting to, like you said, even your show will be the billionaire show, not the millionaire show. We'll get you there.
Well, I guess that's my point too, because people look at Gary Vee, and don't get me wrong, like his message is amazing, but to me, his message is for the people that need to hear the hustle
Yeah.
message. The people that are like, I just need to get myself off the couch. And I was trying to explain that to one of my friends the other day, because I'm like, he's not wrong to who he's catering to, but there's so many different messages and so many different resonances that it just depends on which lane we want to go and where you're at.
Here's what's difficult about the internet: 4.2 billion people and growing. Let me explain why. My generation, I would go and be hired to speak, and I would know who the 2,000 people are,
Mm.
right? The 2,000 franchisees. They were and I could speak specifically to them. We have to once again have a vibration, and so like my philosophy of having 1 million engaged, which I got to a lot quicker. Think about it. My whole thing when people were telling me I was a moron and like, who did I think I was? I would tell my wife, she goes, does that bother you? I said, no, there's 4.2 billion people and growing. If literally zero point 0.1 billion of them, right? Zero point 0.1 billion, which is 100 million people, by the way, 0.1 billion of them resonated with what I'm saying. I used sacrifice or used joy or happiness or all the conflictual arguments that people waste time on. If I use certain words and a clear message that motivated, inspired, and changed the 100 million lives, but yet 4.1 billion people on earth did not know who I was, or worse, hated me, I would have more significant impact than anyone on earth. That's the
I love the math
that,
behind all that. That makes me feel so much better, right? Like backing it up with math really does put things into perspective when we do see how small our brains make things, right? Or how large fear our brain make things. So, okay. So then tell me some tactics on this because I wanted a million engaged followers also. I know you said you're making short videos, but what did
yeah.
you learn over those years that really got the massive engagement and your Mr. Productivity apparently also? So how did you actually fit all this stuff in? Give us some tips.
Yeah. So it's been 2.5 years. And number one, I focus on content. Like for me, when I went on YouTube and saw one of the top videos of all time is the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, 470 million views. I said to myself, you know what? The ideas get no vibration. I cannot put out the ideas. I got to have good stuff. I need stuff that is going to resonate with people. So my primary focus was how do I capture the best of Dave Meltzer every day? Because it doesn't have to be long. I got 24 hours of Dave Meltzer. Videoing me sleeping is not going to be the best, right? So, what's going to be the best of Dave Meltzer, the highest vibration that the most people can be aware of? And I looked at three things. How strong is the signal of what I'm doing, the content? How wide is the spectrum? So, like we said, using certain words, how many of the 4.2 billion are going to get what I'm talking about? And what's the clarity of my frequency? So when I'm evaluating my content, and the more content, the better, right? I needed to edit it according to what was most congruent with the medium that it was on. So YouTube's about 8 minutes, up to 3 minutes on Instagram, whatever the numbers were, they are, and everybody knows. And then there was LinkedIn, for example, as well. So where most people actually listen to LinkedIn because most people on LinkedIn work and they can't be watching videos, but they can have the volume, the audio on. And so you really have to be cognizant of making sure the audio is where it needs to be and very explanatory and colorful. So I was very keen on just the content. And that's really what Gary had me focus in on is, hey, man, you got so much of a great background. You're a fairly good speaker. You don't look so good, but you sound great. You got a voice that's beautiful. Use that. And I make jokes about it, but we really talk about this stuff, right? Because Gary's the same way. We both have, voices that people recognize, but our faces they'd rather not. And anyway, but truly, you can use this stuff. What content is the best? And I give that advice. Really be critical of your content. Capture as much content as you can. Find the best content and put it up there in the right format for the right medium.
Question. How do you know what the best content is? And is it your editor that's pulling it out? Or do you actually go through footage and go, that was the best 1 minute snippet that I said all day?
So what I do is I mark it myself when I think it's gold, right? And so we have a software where I'll use the word, here's a nugget for you. And so we can search nugget. I can, use certain things that will find it. But I also have different age groups of people and different backgrounds to watch a video, and I want them to write down their one takeaway. Right? I want them to write down their one takeaway. So, being able to allow, and look, I use my kids, I use my wife. I'm not talking about employees. I literally will send it out. If I want this to resonate with realtors, I'll send it out to 3 of my real estate friends and say, hey, what's your favorite takeaway? Can you watch these 3 minutes? Give me the one nugget that you like. And I'll go ahead and lo and behold, they hold true a lot of times. Now, when the second place comes in, this is where a lot of content helps. So we put up a lot of content, then you amplify it. So how do we amplify it? You have, different relationships, but most importantly, you can buy ads. Nobody understands, including Gary, the analytics of any of the different platforms. So what do we use? We test. We post off and we see who views it for free. Then we go ahead and we buy $50 of ads against it. Then if it works really well, we go to 100. Then if it works really well, we go to 200. Then if it works well, we go to 500. Then if it works well, we go to 1,000. Remember, there's the content itself, the capturing of it is important. How do we edit it? How do you use, I like captions, for example. I like white and yellow in the captions. That's all capture. Now in the amplification, it's test and watch. That's whether before you do it, you amplify it to your friends that are in real estate or you start buying ads against it. Amplification. But then comes the gold. Most people have no strategy. And this is something that I actually have advised Gary on. And that's the perpetuation side. So even you noticed in the last 2.5 years, there's been a shift of understanding old content. Remember, once the difference compared to me standing on a stage, even though they had a VHS or a beta recorder way back then, I've never watched one of those tapes. Nobody's ever requested one of those tapes. Nobody's ever seen. I've done TV shows. They haven't rewatched the reruns of those tapes. Nobody cares. But man, on the internet, perpetual monetization of your content is your annuity. It's your great grandkids can go and be motivated now if it's in the right format, and it's perpetual, digital perpetuation. So I have a strategy for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years of perpetual data, how it's codified, reposited, organized, searchable, that, as you aggregate all this content, it forms its own piece of art. Mashups, guys like Evan Carmichael are genius of aggregating and perpetuating content into a certain way for YouTube. I have a long-term strategy. I'm like the Chinese were when I was little, and they say, oh my God, their economic warfare plan's 100 years. I believe I'm gonna live a long time. Mine's 50 years. I understand, content access and mediums. I've been the CEO of one of the most notable handheld companies in the world. I understand the medium side of things, so I know how it changes. And so I'm building stuff today. Steve Gu at Microsoft, they put out that virtual AR speaking. So hologram, like I'm looking at stuff now, my content, no, most people probably aren't, of how it's going to sound, look, and feel in Japanese and Chinese and literally different languages, because that AR exists. It exists today and it will be implemented tomorrow. Looking at, insertables for visualization and hearing and how we're going to be able to conceive things. Because I know what I'm doing today, including this interview, may be seen 100 years from now, and my great grandkids may be making, $50 an access to the great Dave Meltzer, who made 1 billion people on Earth happy.
I love that. I'm so into the singularity and stuff like that too. So the people to me that are influencers now are just talking about Instagram and where we are at right now. And I'm like, I've been in tech for so long. I feel like because things change so fast, I'm surprised that you actually have the viewpoint you do, instead of, not that you're going to throw your hands up and be like, never mind, screw it all, right? But we can't predict where we're going. Robots will take over the world. It won't matter anyway. You know what I mean? So when you look at the potential of 50 years, are you just doing whatever the best you can is now with the information that you have, going like, it might be like this in the future? Or do you sort of have a really good picture of 50 years from now?
I don't have a really good picture of 50 years from now. I do have a really good picture of the next 20 years. And I do understand evolution and I understand human nature. And so you have to pick and choose. You can't have all your content, targeted to 50 years from now. But I do have a folder of content that I have 50 years next to it going, hey, this is a guess of mine. It's like watching the Jetsons 50 years ago and seeing treadmills and video phones and TV sets and flying cars. Hey, man, it's 50 years later and we're here and the Jetsons were there. So I'm trying to create. The interesting thing is I actually have my employees. I'm a technology person like you. I believe a lot of times our bigger problem now is imagination, not technology. I think our technology has more capability than our imaginations are coming up with, and that I'm inspiring my kids, my employees, to read science fiction because I want to generate higher engine power of imaginative thought so that we can get to some of the things so that they can buy my videos 50 years from now.
Right? Da Vinci is my
or at least
guru.
I can motivate computers. At least I can motivate computers. Stay on, go faster, you can do it.
I do think creativity has been squelched, especially in the school system and everything like that too. And we could go on a million different topics right now. I'm realizing what time it is and how I apparently have to start wrapping up because, my goodness.
I got to wrap up.
Yes. So I'm going to ask you the last question. Otherwise, we'd go forever. What is one action listeners can take this week to help move them forward towards their goal of 1 million?
Most important piece of advice I can give anyone is ask. Ask. And the 2 questions I want you to memorize, write down. It's the biggest takeaway you're going to get from all the woo-woo BS that I've given you, or whether you believe it or not. This is real pragmatic stuff. Ask 2 questions. 1, do you know anyone that can help me?
Mm.
Don't be afraid to ask. Ask everybody in person, on the phone, via email, media, social media, radio, print, TV. Ask, do you know anyone that can help me? Go ahead, fight your radical arrogance, have radical humility. Ask, 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 ask. If all you did as an entrepreneur is ask people in person, on the phone, via email and media, do you know one that can help me for 1 month? Your business will double. I guarantee it. I will give you a free month coaching. I promise you. Just learn to ask. Then the second question is easy. Everybody always does it just inherently, is ask people how you can be of service, of value, be helpful. It's really easy. Everyone does it. You don't give yourself enough credit. But the way harder thing to do is ask, do you know anyone that can help me? If you do those two things, ask those two questions, promise you this was the best 45 minutes you spent. So if you just fast forward to the end, you don't need to watch the rest. Just ask.
That was your nugget. I love it. Where can we find your podcast and follow you and get all your glean of wisdom that you've got?
Right on. David Meltzer is my name. Almost everything's connected to David Meltzer: YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, David Meltzer. My website, though, is D Meltzer. If David Meltzer is listening, I want to buy that website. But D Meltzer, and you Google David Meltzer, you're going to find me, and you can reach out directly. I answer everything myself. I am up at 4 a.m., so don't be afraid of waking me as well. I'm of service and of access. I'm here to be and truly of service. My vision is to make people happy. So thank you for my time, your time, and allowing me to use your platform to help people make more money, help more people, and have more fun.
Everybody send him love and email or whatever way you can connect with him. Send him love because this was amazing. Thanks so much for being on the show today, David. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out anytime.
If you enjoy this show, I would really appreciate your wonderful words of feedback. Go leave me a review. I would love a rating, whatever you can do in the time that you've got. I would so appreciate it.